Hey everyone, good morning. I am on day 10 of my 31-day July challenge to do 10,000 steps a day. This video is going to be a little bit different, okay? A little more personal. But I think it's going to be one that we can all relate to if we have aging parents, or even if you are an aging parent. There might be some information in here that would be useful to you. So get yourself a cup of coffee and sit back and let's watch this quick video of what I got to say today. For those of you that are new and aren't up to speed on what's going on with my parents, they are both 87 years old, okay? And I have been having to help them more and more as time goes on. In the last few months, they have made some big decisions and it has brought up some challenges, okay? A few months ago, they decided they were going to buy a mobile home and move it on to my property. And I thought, hey, this could be a win-win for everybody. They'd be closer to me where I could keep an eye on them. And they weren't really happy with the place they were living in, okay? Especially my stepdad. He complained all the time. Well, my mom did too. You know, living next door to me, they could still have their independence and come and go as they please and what have you. So I sold them a piece of my property to put this mobile home on, okay? Now, there was a lot of things that had to be done for this mobile home to be put on the property. One of them was a septic tank had to be installed. I did a video on that earlier in the week. You can go back through the channel and find that one if you're interested in listening to that. Now, in order to put the mobile home on the property, there's a lot of major things that have to be done. And some of these things are just coming to light all of a sudden, okay? And I'm starting to get concerned about their thinking patterns and what they perceive as important things that they need to be doing before they actually close on their condo and actually have to move. And I'm going to kind of outline all that in this video. So the selling of the condo is one big mess anyways, okay? They didn't use a realtor. They actually sold it outright. And there's not a whole lot wrong with that, except you have to be thinking and be sharp about what you're doing. They hired an attorney. The attorney is handling the closing, the escrow, and all that kind of stuff, which is really easy to do in Tennessee. But the problem has been the lady who is buying the condo, or the young woman. She's kind of flighty. I've read some of her text messages to my mom. My mom keeps texting back and forth to her. I told my mom, said, Mom, stop texting this girl. You need to go through your attorney on all questions, okay? The lady had an inspection done. There was an issue with the inspection. But when you read the contract, there's some things missing. And I've got a copy of the contract. And I went back and started reading some of it, and it's really vague. But basically all it outlines is a closing date. My mom keeps thinking that she's going to be there for a couple more months. That's not true, okay? Some of the text messages that this lady's been sending don't make a lot of sense. And of course my mom, with her cognitive issues, her text message back to the girl don't make any sense either, okay? And I tried to tell her to quit doing this, but for some reason she won't listen to me, okay? And this seems to be a problem with parents. They come to you and they say, I want your help, but then they don't accept your help, okay? They go do the complete opposite, or they'll listen to complete strangers of the family. They won't even listen to you. But lately we've been noticing, my wife and I, when I say we've been noticing some cognitive issues or thinking pattern issues with my parents, with both of them. At first, I thought it was just my mom, but now I'm starting to realize it's both of them, okay? So they have a lot of important things coming up. Today's July the 10th. they close on the condominium on July 25th. Now that is 2 weeks from tomorrow. Yesterday, I was out. They were at the property yesterday. They've been at the property a lot. They've been out there puttering around, doing this, doing that. Nothing really important. And it's been hotter than blazes here. And they don't have no business being out in this heat. And anyways, yesterday I went out to the barn. My mom was out there standing with a rake in her hand. I said, "What are you doing?" "Oh, I'm just trying to clean up this mess where they put this septic tank in." I said, "Mom, you cannot clean this up with a rake, okay? You're gonna have to have a machine in here, a bobcat or something to smooth all this out. This is too much to be raking down." The guy who helped my dad put the septic tank in has a bobcat, but he couldn't leave it. They covered the septic tank in the field line up Tuesday, and he had to finish digging out his pond or something. He said when he was done, he would bring the bobcat over there and leave it, okay, for us to use, or for my dad to use, my stepdad. And anyways, she was standing there with this rake, and she went to back up. Now my dad's around the corner of the barn futzing with a piece of fence, and I don't know what he was futzing about, but he was messing with it. I use the word futzing for messing. Anyways, I turned to look at her. She leans up against the tailgate of the Rhino. The dump bed lets go and dumps her on the floor. I said, "Oh my gosh." So I yelled for him twice. He didn't even hear me. I finally get her up, and she's standing there, and I go around the corner and says, "Hey, I've been yelling for you." "What?" I said, "She fell. What if I hadn't been out here and you didn't know?" I said, "Why don't you have her a chair to sit in?" So he comes around the corner there, and he goes and fetches a chair for her to sit in, okay? Now he brings her over here to the property with him. He comes almost every single day, okay? He's bored. Well, she don't want to be left at home by herself, so she comes with him. And then they both get out there, they both get overheated, and they go home. And then when you go to visit them, they're like, "What? What's my name? Where am I?" You know what I mean? They got no sense at all, okay? I scratch my head. I say to my wife, I says, "Are they trying to kill themselves? What are they doing out there?" I mean, I even got enough sense not to be in this heat for any length of time, okay? It's not good on you. Anyways, while we were out there, my mom kept saying, you know, I know what it was. They wanted to use my camping trailer. I said, "What for?" "We got to have a place to stay. We have to be out of the condo by August 25th. I said, "I think you got that date wrong." "What?" I said, "I think you got to be out by July 25th, which I just told you a minute ago, it's in 2 weeks. No. She said, "It's in the contract." I said, "Okay." So after they left and I went back in my house, I went and got my copy of the contract, and I started reading it. It's only 3 pages long. There is not one word in there about possession date. Now, I don't know about where you live, but in Tennessee, if you sell a piece of property to somebody, a house, the day you close, they hand you a check, you hand them the keys. You're expected to be out unless you've made prior arrangements with the buyer to stay in there for any length of time. At this point, as far as I knew, they had not made any arrangements. So I go in the house and I'm talking to my wife, and I said, "You know, honey," I says, "the problem is they're not thinking right." I said, "I'm gonna have to do something. I just don't know what to do anymore." I said, "I go over there and I talk to my mom, and she says she wants help, but then she doesn't accept the help. She goes and does what she wants to do anyways. And sometimes I'm just lost. I just don't know what to do about it." Yeah, so they thought they had a few extra weeks now to hand over the condo. Anyways, I decided, my wife helped me. She made a list. There's only about 6 things on there that need to be done, okay? You know, they got to pack up. They got to find somebody to move their stuff. They got address changes to do. You know, all kinds of stuff. Anything what you do moving, you need to start doing, okay? And I tried to get her to change her address starting a few weeks ago because there's actually a mailbox at the property. And since they're over there every day, they're checking the mail anyways. I said, why don't you get all your addresses changed now? And that way when you move, everything will be done. She has not done that yet, okay? I don't know if I'm gonna have to take her by the hand and make her do that, but every time I do something like that, try to force her into doing something, she gets belligerent, okay, with me. So after I got these questions together yesterday afternoon, I told my wife, I said, I'm going over there to see them. So I got my truck, and I went over there. And they knew I was coming because I texted them. And they're both real lethargic, okay? The heat had got to them, okay? They were sitting there in the house, and I asked my stepdad to turn the TV down so I could talk to him for a minute. I said, Mom, I said, would you please show me in the contract where it says you've got till August 25th to move out of here? She says, I don't know where the contract is. I said, I happen to have brought my copy. So my dad's sitting over there, a lot of traffic, people going to work. My dad's sitting over there in his chair, and I said, look, folks, I have gone through all 3 pages of this contract, and there's not one mention of the possession date being extended beyond the closing date. My stepdad looks at me, I says, blah blah this and blah blah that. She says, well, she's got till August the 15th to get out of her place. I said, yeah, but she's not going to want to wait till August 15th to move. She's going to want to start moving, you know, pretty quick. She bought the place. And then Mom started telling me about another text message. She started going through her phones trying to prove things to me, that the girl said she had till December. I said, Mom, I said, that's not going to happen, okay? I said, that's not going to happen. So I says to them, reality is about to set in. I says, you have to be out of here legally on the 25th or 26th of July. That's the day you close. And I said, that is in 2 weeks from Friday. My stepdad looks at me and he says, I didn't know that. See what I mean? Yeah, we know it now, don't we? I said, folks, you got a lot of stuff to do right here, and you don't seem to want my help with it. I says, you don't have time to be over there putting around at the farm with fences and raking dirt and, you know, that kind of stuff. You got a lot of stuff to do right here. And my stepdad says, well, like what? I said, well, here's a list. I just happened to bring a list of things for you that you're going to have to do. So he takes the list and he starts reading it. And in the meantime, my mom's going through her phone at these text messages still, okay? She finally lands on the most recent text message from this woman, and the basis of it said she was writing a text message to, I think, the banker. She told the banker or somebody that she had communicated with the seller to let them know that she needed possession quickly, that they could not stay there, and a few other things. I said, Mom, it says right here. She said, well, what's that piece of paper she sent in that text message? I said, that's her notice to her current landlord that she's moving out by August the 15th. Not on August the 15th, by August the 15th. I said, Mom, you got to be out of here, okay, in 2 weeks. Where are y'all going to stay? Now, they can't stay at my house. I don't have enough room. They can't stay in that tiny camper I have. That's not going to work. Because I'll tell you why in a minute, okay? I'll tell you why. The reason why is length. Everything's all jacked up, okay? The mobile home that they ordered from Clayton will not be in Crossville till somewhere towards the 3rd week of August. They will need about a week or two to prep it and bring it out to the property and set it up. I'm thinking it's going to be after September 1st before they get out here, Labor Day. And I stopped by Clayton yesterday on the way home and talked to the sales lady, and she confirmed this because my mom had those dates screwed up too, when the trailer was going to be here, when they could move in, and all that kind of stuff. And I confirmed the dates with the lady from Clayton. Anyways, yeah, they would need a place to stay for a minimum, I'm thinking, for 2 months. There is no way they can stay in my camping trailer for 2 months, okay? I don't even think I could stay in my camping trailer for 2 months. It's not big enough. And when my mom said she wanted to use it and put it up at a campground, I said, well, Mom, I said, why don't you get up inside that thing and sit down in there and you look around, figure things out. How are you going to handle that for 2 months? Well, she didn't do that. Like I said, these cognitive reasoning things, they're coming into play. So the last thing she did last night before I leave, and I promise you I'm getting to the end of this, I said, you need to call like a realtor from Fairfield area and see if they got any golf package rentals or anything like that. I said, I would call Gwen Realty. Now, she pulls up her phone and calls a friend of hers named Luann. Luann is a real estate agent for Century 21. And she's talking to Luann on the phone, and I can hear every bit of this. And she's asking Luann about rentals. It's really funny when my mom gets on the phone with somebody, her whole attitude just changes, you know. She's just sweet as pie. Anyways, I could hear Luann telling her that they don't really deal with short-term rentals themselves, but she may consider calling Gwen Realty. Imagine that. I just told her that. And so while Luann was still on the phone, I looked up the phone number for Gwen Realty and wrote it on a piece of paper with the name. When my mom got off the phone, now this is the kicker right here. When she got off the phone, I handed her that piece of paper and I said, here is the phone number to Gwen Realty. She took the paper from my hand and flung it across the couch. I'm like, okay, I'm done. I'm not going to sit here and watch this the rest of the afternoon, because I don't know what the problem is, but she will not listen to any kind of reasoning or anything. Okay, she's got, you know, things in her head that I don't know what to do. I really don't know what to do with her. Okay, I called my sister last night, talked to her for a little bit, because my sister dealt with elderly care before. I said, when do you know it's time that you step in? When do you know? I said, I've been trying to give them their independence and their freedom to make their own decisions, but they're not doing a very good job of it. My sister did not have a good answer for me. Maybe y'all do, okay? Maybe y'all been through this with your parents. And I'm speaking to people who have aging parents, but I'm also thinking that if you're a senior citizen like me, that you kind of remember these things as you get older. I guess these small bodily changes that you go through as you age, you don't recognize them as much as outsiders do because you're there all the time. So I know many of you might be thinking about your own parents or maybe yourself as you age, okay? And it's a weird dance, okay, between honoring their independence and knowing when to step in, okay? That's what I'm trying to say. So I think it's time that I get more involved in this situation with timelines and dealing with other issues like finding movers to move their stuff. I even asked my dad, I says, when you move out, where are you going to put your stuff for the few months before your trailer gets here? Oh, I'm going to put it out here in the barn on pallets. Now, now, do you think putting your furniture covered up with tarps out in a barn is a good idea? I don't. Okay, for 2 months, there'll be all kinds of bugs and mice and all kinds of things in that furniture. I mean, that's not even thinking straight right there. I mean, what I've been learning from all this is transitions don't always go smoothly. Even with the best intentions of me letting them have their independence, things can go wrong. But you do the best you can with grace and humor and a little bit of patience when possible, okay? Honestly, I'm just grateful that we're in a position to keep them close, okay, and try to make this work. I mean, having your parents, your aging parents, live next to you and being able to kind of look after them and still let them have their independence. Don't take that away. But what I'm really concerned is these cognitive issues are getting worse. And I'm not too sure what the future is going to hold for all this, okay? I get really concerned about a lot of things. Driving, going out of town by themselves, those kind of issues. You hear horror stories all the time. So it's one of the questions in my head a lot is, what do I do when I know the time has come that we have to take the next step? And what is the next step, okay? Is it nursing care? Is it a nursing facility? It just depends, okay? But to be honest with you, at 87 years old, I think both of them have thinking issues, okay? Thinking, problem-solving issues, and they need my help more. I have thought about my other siblings. I have 5 stepbrothers and sisters. None of them are around here. My sister, my real sister, lives in Nashville. She's 100 miles away. I don't really have any help except my wife, okay? And she's my sounding board. Thanks for letting me share this with you. I know it's a little different than my normal walking videos but it is what the channel's about. It's about life, retirement, those kind of things. And life is made up of these real moments like this, okay? This is real. It's real life. I'm not making this stuff up. Hey, if you've ever had to navigate something like this, I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Drop me a comment down below and tell me what you think, okay? Am I right? Am I wrong? How do I handle these situations with them? I'm sure maybe there's some of you watching that have gone through this yourself. But I'd really appreciate your insight, okay, into this situation. Like I said, it's getting where I'm more involved with it now. I'm starting to get more involved because we're getting down to crucial deadlines. Okay, and I don't want to come knocking on my door some Saturday morning and say, we got to move today. So as always, thanks for watching All Things Ron, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye-bye now.